Let me ask you something most people never stop to think about. When we call someone smart, what are we actually measuring? School grades, test scores, problem-solving speed? Somewhere along the way, we quietly place people into categories: smart, average, slow. But psychology suggests something far more complicated is happening. Because when researchers study people at the very lowest end of the IQ scale, the goal isn't just to understand intelligence, it's to understand how the human brain can experience the world in completely different ways. And once you see it from that perspective, the entire idea of intelligence starts to look different. First, we need to talk about what IQ actually measures. IQ stands for Intelligence Quotient, and it mainly focuses on abilities like reasoning, problem-solving, memory, and processing speed. The average score is 100. Psychologists generally classify scores below 70 as intellectual disability, and when scores fall below 50, that's considered severe cognitive impairment. But here's the part that people often misunderstand. An extremely low IQ does not mean a person has no intelligence. What it really means is that their brain processes information in a very different way. To understand why, we need to look at a specific part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the area responsible for things like abstract reasoning, planning for the future, and understanding complicated cause and effect relationships. It's the part of the brain that allows you to imagine possibilities, analyze problems, and mentally simulate outcomes before they happen. In people with extremely low IQ, research consistently shows that this part of the brain has weaker connectivity and slower processing speed, which means tasks that most adults do automatically can become extremely difficult. Understanding complex instructions, predicting long-term consequences, navigating subtle social expectations. These kinds of cognitive demands require a lot more effort, and in some cases, certain abilities may never fully develop. But here's where things get genuinely interesting, because when psychologists look beyond abstract reasoning, they often find something surprising. Many individuals with very low IQ demonstrate strong emotional awareness, reliable learning through repetition, and deep attachment to familiar people and routines. Their world isn't built around abstract ideas, it's built around concrete experiences, things that can be seen, heard, felt, patterns that repeat every day. And within that kind of environment, many people with low IQ function with remarkable stability. Familiar routines make sense, trusted relationships feel safe, and emotional signals from other people can be surprisingly easy to read. Which raises a strange but important question. How much of what we call intelligence is actually just adaptation to a specific environment? Psychologist Howard Gardner famously challenged the idea that intelligence is a single measurable ability. Instead, he proposed that humans have multiple forms of intelligence: linguistic intelligence, spatial intelligence, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, physical coordination, creative pattern recognition. Traditional IQ tests were designed mainly to predict academic success. They were never meant to measure emotional depth, or kindness, or loyalty, or the ability to form meaningful relationships. And this distinction matters more than most people realize, because when researchers study emotional development in people with intellectual disabilities, they often find strong capacities for affection, trust, and emotional bonding. The reason for this lies in another part of the brain, the limbic system. This is the region responsible for emotions, attachment, and basic social connection. And interestingly, the limbic system operates largely independently from the brain regions used in abstract reasoning. In other words, a person can struggle with complex problem solving while still experiencing a rich emotional life. They can feel love, joy, fear, comfort, and deep attachment to the people around them. And this is where the psychology becomes truly thought-provoking. Because when you look at it this way, intelligence begins to look less like a single ladder people climb and more like a collection of different abilities that develop in different ways. Some brains are extremely good at abstract reasoning, others are better at emotional connection, Others excel at physical coordination, creativity, or pattern recognition. Human cognition isn't a single dimension, it's a complex system. And when researchers study individuals at the very low end of the IQ spectrum, they're not just studying limitations, they're studying how flexible the human brain actually is, how it adapts, how it organizes experience, how it builds meaning even when certain cognitive abilities are reduced. And maybe the most important insight from all of this is something we rarely talk about. The experiences we most associate with being human, love, attachment, fear, trust, belonging, those don't primarily come from the prefrontal cortex. They come from much deeper areas of the brain that no standardized test was ever designed to measure. Which means when we talk about intelligence, we're really only talking about one narrow slice of what it means to be human. Understanding that doesn't just change how we think about low IQ, it changes how we think about intelligence itself. Because the human mind isn't defined by a number on a test, it's defined by the many different ways a brain can experience, interpret, and connect with the world.